And today's teaching shall be, so there's a remainder of last week, I think 2 weeks ago, there's a remainder of 2 weeks teaching. And so
this meeting is being,
that is
the 10 Supreme Acts, Rinpoche.
10 Supreme Acts, yeah. So today's teaching should begin from 10 Supreme Acts, but there's a remainder of like last week's, 3 of the last week's teachings are still left. But I think it's not that, so I will just cover them very briefly, last week's teaching from number 8, 9, and 10, and then come to today's teaching. So that from the to follow up from last week's teaching, the number 8 is that one moment of realization is superior to the entire product of experience in the mind. So no matter what kind of no matter what experiences you have in your life, no matter one moment of realization. So realization is a moment of realization is much more superior than any other experiences that you might have in your life. So a realization is actually gaining insight into the truth. So when we say experiences of the mind, we are actually referring to, let's say, experiences of seeing a deity or having beautiful signs and so on and so forth. So even though these may be beautiful, these are not we must not rely upon the signs alone. So until one gains a realization, so once we get a realization of a certain truth, let's say realization of impermanence, realization of emptiness, and so on and so forth, realization of selflessness and like that, henceforth, then your attitude towards life, your understanding of the world, everything changes, and it is for to stay. So therefore, one must always aim for realization rather than myriad forms of experiences. So even though experiences are good, spiritual experiences are good, but they are not the ultimate signs. So one must always strive for the realization rather than being satisfied, being content with just a few signs here and there. Okay, then. So one moment of selfless conduct is superior to all the selfish conducts. So this means conduct is usually our behavior. So here we are referring to our behavior, and especially our behavior in relation to spiritual practices. So most of the time, when we keep our conducts or our, let's say, our behavior, our moral conducts, according to the our practices, so we are doing it with a selfish intent. There is a certain selfish intent whenever whatever conducts we hold on to or we keep, because we are thinking, okay, if I do this, I will be able to gain this and that. If I do the 100,000 prostrations, I will be able to accumulate lots of merit, and then I'll be happy, so on and so forth. So there's always this kind of, even though it may not be considered selfish in the worldly sense, from a spiritual point of view, it can be, understood as a selfish intent. So as long as there is a selfish intent, whenever you are doing it for your own sake, then it is done with a selfish intent, and then. Even though it is such a great action, such a great conduct, like doing the prostration, making offerings, and so on and so forth, but if you have a selfish intent with mind, it is still inferior to then that of an act that is done with a selfless attitude or without any selfish intent. So when you are making an offering, you are making an offering for the sole purpose of helping that person who is in despair, who is poor, who is hungry, who is cold. So you are no longer, without thinking, without any moment of thought over, I'm going to accumulate merit, or I'm going to, this will help me in this and that way. If you offer for the sake of offering alone, if you give for the sake of giving alone, then that act becomes selfless act of generosity, selfless action of generosity, selfless conduct of patience, selfless conduct of mindfulness, and so on and so forth. So whenever there is a selfish attitude involved, then even though it's such a great act, I'm not saying if you give something with if you participate in generosity, in patience, in mindfulness, or whatever practices you do, if you practice them with selfish attitude, it still is much better than not doing anything. It's still very great practice. But compare it. So we are talking about in a comparative manner. So compare it to an act that is done selflessly, then this act is actually inferior. So when you do something without thinking about a result, without thinking for selfish results, then so that's why normally whenever we do, for example, today this morning we began with the selfless motivation of Sangye, that one, like taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and whatever action that I'm going to do today is for the sake of noble sentient beings, mother sentient beings. So we try to get rid of our selfish attitude from the very beginning, and thus whatever act that we are engaged in, whatever action that we are engaged in the following 1 hour becomes meaningful, becomes a superior conduct, superior act. Okay, so the last one of the 10 superior act is known as, even though giving or practicing generosity is it's a great form of spiritual act, but practicing in not wanting is more superior than not giving out of generosity. So here it says, giving up the material of the world is superior to all the material generosity. So it means even though practicing generosity by giving to others is a great practice, but giving up your need to have materials in the first place is a greater act, is a superior act of practices, superior act of generosity. So when we talk about generosity, we are so if you give something that you have plenty, if you give something that you do not you're not attached to, it's not a big deal. When you think of it in a very spiritual, sort of a very strictly spiritual manner, when you give something that you have a lot, it doesn't really concern you that much. So since your mind or your desire, your mind is not attached to the object that you are giving, you can give a lot. And it's true that it does help the people to whom you are giving those things. But if you give something that you have not much, if you something that you have very little, if you give that to someone else, that actually means a lot, because your mind is somewhat attached to the object that you are giving. So from a generosity point of view, giving up or giving away the things that you have are plenty, you have a lot, is not a big deal of practice, not a big deal of generosity practice. But if you give something that is very dear to you, that you could almost not give away, then this is a greater form of practices. So for a lot of people, of course, generosity, giving to other people is very difficult. But for some people, giving to other people are not that difficult. but giving up the luxuries of one's own is much more difficult. So depending on, so since Dharma is an antidote, we talked about that before. So depending on what your weaknesses is, if your weaknesses is desire, stinginess, and so on and so forth, then you must maybe not you cannot give away everything on day one, but gradually you must try to give away the things that you endear, that is most endearing to you, and by practicing so, one will be able to progress much further spiritually. Okay, so with this, now we will go to today's teaching. So there is a little bit error in the title of the teaching today. The book translates as the 10 Supreme Acts. So in Tibetan it says Chidar Cheyang Yegwe Chu Chu, which means excellent no matter what. So no matter what, this is an excellent thing to do. That is the title of the today's topic. So excellent no matter what. That is today's topic. Anyway, so for example, okay, let's read the first topic, first teaching, first instruction, which is a religious-minded person, if gives up or does not give up the worldly activities for Dharma's sake, it is a supreme act. Okay, so okay, I'm a little bit apprehensive here as well. So here the Tibetan word used was lo sem so song kansa. So the word used here in Tibetan is sem, which is a little bit closer to spiritual than religion. So a person whose mind is into spiritual things, whether he gives up or does not give up worldly activities, is an excellent act no matter what. So religious mind or religion can be understood in two different forms, right? But the Tibetan word is lo sem so song, means when your mind is into spiritual things, then whether you give up or does not give up worldly activities, it's still an excellent act, no matter what. It's still well, we might say it's a supreme act no matter what. So actually the topic of today's teaching is called supreme, or maybe excellent, no matter what. So no matter what, this is this is an excellent act. So a person whose mind is into spiritual things. So here, when we say spiritual thing, it means the text here says religious-minded people. So religion can be a little bit, so it can be a little bit, sometimes it can be misleading. So let's use the word spiritual. So someone who is spiritual is someone who is into intent into developing one's mind to the fullest, developing the mind's capabilities to the fullest, to the most extent it can get. So for such a person, whether you acquire worldly materials and worldly activities, engage in worldly activities and acquire worldly materials or not, it still becomes an asset, not a liability. So therefore, for that person, no matter what, it is an excellent choice, an excellent act. For example, if you are a spiritual person, in the sense that you want to develop your mind to the fullest, your mind's fullest potential, your mind's fullest capability is that it can reach its apex, it can reach its ultimate sort of goal of acquiring enlightenment, omniscient mind. Omniscient, when you have omniscient mind, you also have omnipresence, so that we can, wherever your mind, whatever you want to know, whatever your mind thinks, the mind knows. Wherever your mind, whatever your mind imagines, that actually comes true, and it can pop up. You can be in any places that your mind thinks of. Omnipresence and omniscience are acquired when you have the enlightened mind. So, so this is the apex of the mind, the mind at its summit, the mind reaching its maximum capacity. So therefore, this is development of the mind. It's a practice of development of the mind. So such is called a spiritual practice. So when you are engaged in spiritual practices, if you are acquiring wealth or engaging in worldly activities in order to develop your spiritual capabilities, then no matter what, it is an excellent. It is an excellent act. It's an excellent action. It's an excellent conduct. So therefore, you may engage in it. So this is the meaning of today's teaching. So the first one is a spiritual-minded person, whether one gives up or not gives up worldly activities. If one is spiritually minded, then no matter what, it is still a supreme act. It is still an excellent act. Now, the second is so the person who whose doubt is already crushed, whose doubt is already uprooted. For that person, no matter what, whether that person meditates or contemplates or does not contemplate, no matter what, it's still an excellent act. So in summary, what it means is that once you clear your doubt over a certain focal point, certain meditative point, then you do not have to contemplate on it over and over and over again, because the so we talk about the three stages of learning or three stages of training. The first is to hear or read about something, then to contemplate over it yourself. To ponder over it, right? Then to meditate upon it. First, you hear something, then you think it over whether it's true or not, and then you have a feeling it's quite true. You are quite certain that it is true. Then you solidify your understanding of your grasping of the truth through meditation, and through proper meditation. Once you solidify your understanding of the truth, the exact truth, then you no longer have any doubt. So no doubts are there anymore. And when all the doubts are cleared over a certain topic, then you no longer have to meditate over that subject. So it doesn't mean that you don't have to meditate over at all. It doesn't mean that you should stop doing meditation at all. It means once your doubt is cleared, then you do not have to meditate upon that particular subject. So we have doubt on A, and once our doubt is cleared upon topic A, we do not have to meditate on topic A. Now we move to topic B, and then topic C and D, and like that. So that is the gist of the instruction number 2. Now the third is that for someone who has cut ties, or let's say who is no longer engulfed, who is no longer embroiled in attachment, for that person, whether he or she enjoys things passionately or does not passionately, is still an excellent action, no matter what. So for this, let's I think it's better to look at another quote from Master Telopa. So the Master Telopa, who is the Grand Master of Milarepa, who is the master of the author of the book. Master Gampopa's teacher is Milarepa. Milarepa's teacher is Marpa. Marpa's teacher is Naropa. Naropa's teacher is Telopa. So Telopa is a great yogi. He's a great master, but at the same time he's a great yogi. So if you meet him in the street, you would he would appear like a mad person, or maybe like a a very poor, skinny, dark Indian, guy, like a beggar actually. So anyway, the point is, Master Telupa, he is a great Mahasiddha and Grand Master of Milarepa. So he said, enjoyment is not the problem. The problem is attachment. So it's a very popular quote, and everyone uses it. And everyone uses it, and lots of people misuse it as well. So the thing is, you have to be very honest with yourself. So we have the three poisons, right? Attachment, hatred, and ignorance. So within myself, of course, all three of them are poisons, but which of them are my superior weaknesses? So if I have very strong weaknesses with attachment, am I being very jealous with other people, having things better than me, being attached to certain objects, certain people, and things like that. So if attachment is my weakness, it's my fall, then of course I should abstain from enjoying things passionately to a certain degree that one is able to distance oneself from the desire. So once you are able to get free yourself from attachment to certain object, then you can enjoy that object as passionately as you desire. So there is no restriction. Once the danger, once the threat is over, once that threat is cleared, then there no longer is any restriction about whether you should enjoy things or engage in things passionately or not passionately. But as long as the threat is looming, as long as that threat of attachment is there, the threat of desire is there, that threat of you being attached to a certain object, that certain object being your sole source of happiness. So when you have that object, you are happy. When you are with that person, you are happy. When you are not with that person or object, you are unhappy. So when the sole source of your happiness, joyfulness, your contentment lies outside, externally, to that object, to that person, then you are being attached. And as long as that happens, you must not engage passionately in a passionate manner with that person or with that object, because that will actually drag you down more and more. So this is the meaning of lesson number 3. Once you are free from attachment, then you can enjoy things as passionately or dispassionately as you desire. It is still an excellent action. Now, point number 4 is so the person who has actually gained insight into the ultimate truth, or in other words, the essence of all existential phenomena. That person, for that person, whether he or she stays in a cave to meditate, or comes out in the public and enjoys life in a crowd, no matter what, this is still an excellent action. So the thing is that person is actually, in other words, that person has actually mastered his or her mind. So the person who has mastered their mind, then it doesn't matter whether you are in a monastery, you are in a cave, or you are in a busy market, strolling in a busy market. If your mind is at calm, then even if you are at a war-torn place, you can still find peace. Of course, there's war going on around you, but inside you are at peace. And this is possible. This is not something. This is not a, you know, it is very much possible. And it has happened, you know, many times. Great masters, great teachers being imprisoned in jail, and they're still, even though all the other people are suffering so much, you know, physically there's so much cold, there's hunger, there's everything negative that you can think about, but inside they have peace of mind. Of course, there is the concern for other people to be freed, alleviated from the suffering that there's going on, but within themselves they have a certain peace of mind, and from that peace of mind they're able to give solutions, give guidances to people who are suffering physically. So it has happened in Tibet, and it has happened in many parts of the world where people, great masters who have. So what we call a master, usually we don't call a master, we refer to someone as a master, not because that person is training you in this or that. Someone is regarded as a master when that person has actually mastered his or her own mind. So mastering your mind means you are able to take full control of what you think, how you think, what you will think about, how you will react to, how you will internally react to objects that is occurring externally. And then if you are able to control such and such things, then you have mastered your mind, and thus you become a master. So once you become a master, then it doesn't matter whether you are in the monastery, in a temple, in a cave, or just outside strolling around, you know, with other people, enjoying, partying, doing whatever you want. It doesn't matter, because you have mastered your mind, and then you are able to, you have that peace of mind, and that peace of mind will act as a sanctuary, as an oasis to give relief to other people around you. Oh yeah. Okay, so one more, and then I will open up for questions. And if there's no more question, I will continue with today's teaching. Now, number 5 is that okay. So literal translation. Now, the person who knows all the appearances as illusory, for that person, whether he stays as a hermit or as a wanderer, no matter what, it is still an excellent act. So it is similar to the previous one, but the qualities are a little different. The quality is that the person who is number 4 and 5 actually come together. Well, one comes after the next other one. So once you realize emptiness, after gaining insight into emptiness, after gaining insight into the reality of all phenomena, which is that everything is empty of inherent existence. Once you know that everything is empty of having an inherent existence, then you know that everything that appears to you. So here we use the word in Tibetan nawa. Nawa is directly translated as appearance. So appearance is what we see, right? We only see the things that appear in front of us. We only appear. So we see the things that appear before us. So therefore, that's why everything that we see, everything that we hear, or in other words, everything that is object of our 5 senses, our sensorial receptors, everything that is the object of our sensorial receptors, ears, nose, tongue, body, you know, like that, the 5 senses, everything that is the object of the 5 senses are regarded as appearances, because that is what appears to us, that is what we only see. we are able to see and hear and feel the things that appear to us. So that is why all these things are called appearances. So appearances are false or are illusory. So once you have the previous understanding, number 4, lesson number 4, which is that once you have insight into the ultimate truth, then you know that everything that appears before us is illusory, is hollow. It is not what it appears to be, right? So once you have that understanding, once you know that everything that appears to us, like when we were kids, we like to make, like, for example, when we go to the beaches, we make sand castles and we think this is a very beautiful castle, and we have so many imaginations. But as we grow up, we know this is a sand castle, and it is of not much value as we grow up. And then we see, oh, this is a sand castle. It's not a real castle. It's a sand castle, right? And then even if it's washed ashore by the waves, we still don't care. It doesn't really matter to us, because we know it is not a real castle, but it's a sand castle. So similarly, once you gain insight into the ultimate truth, then you will know that no matter what, you will gain insight into the ultimate truth. You will know that everything that appears to us are illusory, and therefore there is nothing to be so strongly clinging towards, so happy about, so unhappy about, so worried about these things. There's no such thing, because there's nothing is substantially true. Nothing is ultimately existing inherently. So therefore, there is nothing to be attached towards. There is nothing to be angry about. There is nothing to worry for. There is nothing to be apprehensive of, so on and so forth. So once you have that insight, then whether you stay in the mountains as a meditator, or you go out in the cities enjoying life, or whatever you do, all fine. Everything, no matter what you do, is an excellent act of work. Okay, so one thing I need to add, point number 6 and point number 3 are actually very similar. And I think I made a little bit error here. The point number 3 is about once the person who has let go of attachment and desire. For that person, I said engaging in worldly activities, right? So actually, it is the Tibetan word is chame to china. The chame can mean desireless, but it actually refers here to celibacy. So once you have let go of your desire, once you have freed yourself from attachment, then whether you remain as a celibate or a non-celibate, you are still an excellent practitioner. So this is number 3. And number 6, the next one, is that the next lesson that we are coming to is that if you are able to control your mind, or if you have mastered your mind, so they're very similar. So if you have control over your attachment, your desire, then you have mastered your mind. And so therefore, if you have mastered your mind, then whether you engage in worldly activities or not, still an excellent act. So number 6 is worldly activities, and number 3 is celibacy. So whether you remain as a celibate or as a monk or nun, or as a whether you ordain or not ordain, it doesn't matter. If you have if you have freed yourself from attachment, if you can control your attachment and desire, then whether you remain as a celibate, as an ordained person or not, doesn't matter. That is lesson number 3. And lesson number 6 is whether you engage in worldly activities, like doing business or, so whatever, like engaging in trades and so on and so forth. If you have control over your mind, then you can use all these activities, being a non-celibate, engaging in business activities and all these activities, all these performances, conducts, you can actually, it becomes an asset. It becomes an asset for your supreme goal of attaining enlightenment for the sentient beings to help other beings. But if you have no control over your desire, your anger, your ignorance, and so on and so forth, then these things may, not always, but may drag you down. Instead of helping you lift up, it will drag you downwards. So therefore, one must be wary of such things. So point number 3 is celibacy. Point number 6 is engaging in material wealth. Point number 3 is celibacy. Point number 6 is material wealth. Okay, so is there any questions today?
Yes, Rinpoche, we have one question, 2 questions right now. Can I start with
Yes.
that?
Yes.
The first prostrate to Rinpoche, regarding the teaching in number 1, how do we know if we are a religious-minded person? Thank you, Rinpoche.
Can you please repeat the question?
The question
How do
is
we know?
how do we know if we are religious-minded?
Okay. So I for myself, I personally think of religion and spirituality as 2 different things, 2 different entities. But in Tibetan, we usually use one word, che, and that actually is an ambiguous word that actually applies to both religion and spirituality. But in English, actually, religion is something that you follow. It's more of ritualistic, and then we say in English sometimes, like, oh, that person is doing things very religiously. It doesn't necessarily mean that that person is doing Dharma practice or anything. It means if you do something, if you follow something without question, if you follow something, if you are very obedient, if you follow things the way it should be followed, we say, we use the first in English, oh, he's driving very religiously. That means he's driving the way it should be. He's following every sort of the rules and laws and everything. So one can follow all the rules and all the regulations of a certain organization or a certain faith, and most of the time when we follow the rules and regulations, right? All the rules and regulations in the world are about physical rules and regulations. You cannot say this, you cannot say this, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, you can walk this way, you cannot walk that way. But there's no rules and regulations on how and what you can think. No matter what you think, if you think of killing all the people in the world, you will still not be imprisoned. And if you plan or talk about killing people, then you may be jailed for conspiracy of murder and so on and so forth. If you kill someone, then you will be murdered for, you will be jailed for killing someone, for murder. But if you think of killing someone, there is no rules and regulations here. So religion can be something that is very physical, very external, whereas spiritual is more internal. So when we talk about, okay, so my point here is that when we say a spiritually minded person, for a spiritually minded person, it doesn't matter whether that person stays in the mountains or, it's the first instruction, which is that for someone who is religious minded or someone who is, let's use the word in Tibetan, so someone who is spiritually minded, right? For someone who is spiritually minded, whether you engage in all the activities or not engage in all the activities, it doesn't matter. No matter what, it's still an excellent act. So to know that oneself, to know whether you are a religious person or not, it's very easy, because if you do your prostration, if you do your prayers, if you do, like if you when monks and nuns come, you bow towards them, and all of these things are very religious. These are signs of a religious person. But does it mean you are a spiritual person or not? That entirely depends on what your attitude of mind is at that particular time. Are you bowing down to monks and nuns and paying respect because this is the societal norm? This is what the society dictates you to do, because you think if you pay respect to the monks, you will accumulate merit and you will be much happier. And of course, there's as Master Tilopa said, enjoyment and happiness is not a problem here. If you are doing something for your happiness, your own happiness, it's not a bad thing. But if that is your ultimate goal, I have to be happy and that's it, then it becomes a problem. If you do everything for your own sake and nothing else, then that becomes a problem. And so to become a spiritual person, you need to be much more open-minded, open-hearted, spacious-hearted. When you do things, with others in mind, with let's say when you engage in anything with more than oneself, more than yourself in mind. So when we say yourself, we are talking about you, your own family. All these are like one sort of. It is one pack. So when you do for your family, your own family, even though your family is not you, when you do it for your family, you are doing it for someone whom you are invested in, highly invested in. Your happiness is very highly invested in your family's happiness. So when you do it for your family alone, it still doesn't become, a selfless act. So therefore, to become a spiritual person, one should be able to open one's heart much broader, with others in mind, and with not being satisfied or content with with the desire to develop your mind to its fullest extent, to its effects, and that would be that would constitute a spiritual person. Normally, yeah. In the Muslim world, a person who does 5 namazes, 5 prostrations every day, and then goes to the mosque every Friday, that person is considered a religious person, or he's a very religious person. So religion is something that you follow because your organization or your faith or your group or whatever actually dictates or necessitates you to do so. So it's more communal. It's less personal. Next question, please.
Next question, Michela. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
How can we minimize the selfish intention and increase the selfless intention with the same spiritual act? For example, when we conduct spiritual act with the intent to be liberated, we usually think of ourselves first. Thank you, Michela.
Okay. That's a very good question. So let's say this. So even though we talk about selfishness and selflessness all the time, when it comes to the very essence of it, for ordinary people, it is very difficult to let go of all the selfish attitude. So without a slight hint of selfish attitude, one will not be able to achieve anything. So what we have to do is when we drive or when we are driving, we look in the horizon, in the distance, but at the same time we look in front of us as well, because there might be some obstacles in front of us and we have to be careful. But also we need to get an idea of where we are driving. Or there's a curve coming in like maybe there's a curve coming in like 50 meters. We have to look in the distance. We also have to look in the in front of us as well. So similarly, so selfish attitude should be the ultimate goal or the distant goal, and selfless attitude should be the distant goal, and selfish attitude should be the the near goal, or the goal in distance and a goal in front of us. So in the long term, let's call it short term and long term, right? So the short term goal should be some amount of selfishness should be there, but in the long run, we should there should be a selfless goal. For example, when we are so I will use the driving example again. When we are driving to a certain place, we know the destination. We let's say we are going to drive to the west, to the east. We know the general direction to which we are moving towards. But we cannot drive all the way north or all the way south. We have to, even though our main direction, our ultimate direction is toward south, but depending on the road, depending on the motorway, depending on the road that we are driving, we may have to go left, go right, go east, go north, and finally we reach, north. So let's say north is our ultimate direction, destination. We want to reach north, but we cannot reach north by driving towards north all the way. We have to follow the traffic rules, we have to follow the road, and so on and so forth. So like that, the way our world is situated, the way we are living our lives, and the way our due to the way that we were preconditioned for an enormous amount of time, we are much more used to a selfish attitude. So if there is some selfish goal in front of us, then we are able to drive forward. If it is everything becomes selfish, everything becomes so vague, so abstract, and we feel like we are aimless, then we do not know where to go. So in the distance, we need to have a selfless goal, but in the short run, in the long run, we need to have a selfless goal, but in the short run, we need to have a selfish goal. Okay, by doing meditation every day, I will gain peace of mind. I will gain peace of mind. I am going to be happy. If I am happy today, I will make my family happy today. And today, if I'm happy today, there's a very high chance that I will be happy tomorrow as well. So you have, if you are happy today and tomorrow, there is more chance that you'll be happy the next day, and so on and so forth. So you have the more days of happiness you have, 30 days is equal to 1 month. So if you are happy for 1 month, you have more chance to, if you are happy, if you are okay, I have to rephrase it. Not that you are happy for 1 month. If you are able to keep yourself happy for 1 month, this is the right word. If you are able to keep yourself happy for 1 day, you will be able to. There's more chance that you will be able to keep yourself happy for 1 week. And if you are able to do so, you will have more chance. If you are able to keep yourself happy for 1 month, then 1 year, and so on and so forth. And if you are able to keep yourself happy, then you have a more capability, high chance to keep others happy. So if you keep yourself happy and others happy, then in the long run, you are able to make 30 people happy, 300 people happy, 3,000 people happy, and you bring happiness to the whole world, whole community, whole universe, and so on and so forth. So in the long run, there is the whole sentient beings, but in the short run, you make yourself happy, yourself content, your life peaceful, and so on and so forth. So that way, so to answer to your question, how to keep a selfish attitude in our daily life, selfless activities while doing selfish. How to keep a selfless attitude while doing selfish activity, while engaged in selfish activities in our day-to-day life. So you need to have two goals: long-run goal and short-run goal. Okay, and with that in mind, you'll be able to do both. So it's very important to make yourself happy, to enjoy life yourself. If one member of the family is happy, then there's a higher chance that that person can actually share that positive vibe with other people, the other members of the family, and they can also become more happy. It's very difficult to it's difficult to when someone is very sad, someone is in such a strong despair, it's very difficult to make a joke and laugh about things. And when someone is in a very good mood, it's very difficult to talk about something bad. Oh, that person is very happy at the moment. Let us not disrupt this happy moment. We are apprehensive of disrupting happy moments. So if you are able to keep your happiness, then you become the anchor for happiness within your family, and your family can light the joy of happiness, the lamp of happiness to other families, and so on and so forth. So there's the long run goal and the short goal. So short goal, you can be selfish. In the long goal, you have to be selfless. So let me just finish that off with a story. So normally whenever anyway, okay, maybe it's going to be very long. So yeah, long run, we have to be selfless. In the short run, you can be very little bit selfish. It's also fine. And because selfishness is what motivates us. We are ordinary people after all. So when we are a little bit selfish, it motivates us more. So we can be a little bit selfish in the short run, but in the long run, we have to be selfless. Yeah.
Are you going to tell us the story?
It's not really a story though. It's like yeah. So when we were kids, when we were students in the monastery, we have to do debate in the monastery, right? So so because we learned so much about selflessness and everything like that, compassion and bodhicitta. So when I first joined the monastic debate college, so I was a little bit apprehensive in pushing others and doing debates and arguing and that kind of thing, because I think that's very rude and it's something I should not be engaging in, because it's totally against the being that I should not argue with people. Like if you are arguing with someone is contradictory to being good and compassionate toward other person. So why are we arguing and things like that? So then I went to my teacher and I asked, I'm apprehensive in doing debates, and then also I don't want to argue with other people. Why are we arguing in the monastery like that? So my teacher said, yes, you are right, in the sense that so the example that I just shared with you, the instruction that I just shared with you, the example was actually told by my teacher. That so you have to think of long term and short term. In the long term, of course, you want to get rid of arguing with people, being rude, and all these things are something that you have to get rid of. But in the short term, we need these things. For example, as a kid, we are all ordinary beings. So if you do not debate, if you do not argue, if you do not argue strongly about your so you have a statement, you have a you have a statement to make, and then you want to disapprove of other person's statement with reasoning and so on and so forth. If you do not do any of those things, lots of doubts will remain. Your doubts will be never cleared. If you think of something yourself, then you think you're right. Unless you put that into question with other people, when you argue with other people may destroy your understanding. If you think this is the truth, you think this is the only truth. We say the truth, the only truth, and nothing but the truth. So, like a trial in a court, we do the same thing in the monastery. First, we read about something in a book, and we think this is the truth. And then we also have this kind of, when we read a lot of books, we think this is the only truth. I know all the truth. This is all the truth, the truth only the truth and nothing but the truth. This is the only truth that is. There's nothing more to it. Then we go to the debate yard and we debate with other people, our classmates, and then also our seniors will also come and debate with us. So they will destroy everything that we think is the truth. And now we are back to square one. I thought this is the truth, but it's no longer the truth. Where is my truth? Where is everything that I've learned to? Everything is gone. So, so what happens is when we read a lot of books, we think we know a lot, and with that pride, we can actually go to the debate yard and debate about it. We can argue about these things because we have this pride. We have this selfish attitude that we know a lot. If I do not have that pride, if I do not think that I know a lot, I will not be able to put my understanding at display in front of other people, and then I will not debate with anyone. And if I don't debate with anyone, I will convince myself that what I know is the truth and the only truth, and I will never progress from that. But every time I learn something and I think this is the only truth, and I go to the class and we debate with the other people, our classmates, and then everything I think is true is all destroyed. Like we destroyed the sand castle. Everything is all gone, and then we have to come begin from scratch, and then that selfish attitude. So that's what my teacher was saying. You need to have selfish attitude to learn. If you have the selfish attitude, if you have the ego, you will learn a lot. You think, oh, I know a lot. I know everything. I have memorized this and that much. You know a lot. And my teacher says this is okay, because once you are in the debate yard, you will debate with other people, and all your ego will be gone, because your classmates and your peers, your teachers and your seniors will destroy everything that you think is the truth. So everything that you have learned so far will all be gone, and so all the knowledge that you think you have gained, you are attached to it. So through that attachment, your ego is boosted. So when all the things that you think you have understood is gone, destroyed, and all the attachment is gone, destroyed, then your ego, your selfish attitude is also gone, and you start from scratch. You start from level 1, and so then you have so therefore the initial stage in the in the short goal, you need to have selfish attitude. As I said before, when you have a selfish attitude, it becomes much more. It's more tangible. When you have a selfish goal, it's more tangible. When you have a selfless goal, let's say world peace. World peace, we all talk about world peace, but how can we bring world peace? We cannot bring world peace just like that. In order to bring world peace, we need to bring like a family peace, inner peace, and so on and so forth. When I am happy, I can make my family happy, and then that can be multiplied through other families, and other states, other districts, other countries, and so on and so forth. And finally, there's world peace. So, world peace, happiness for all mother sentient beings, enlightenment, they are very much abstract. They are the long-term goals. But that selfless attitude should be there, but in the long run. In the short run, we have to be slightly selfish. When we are selfish, we are more grounded. But if we are too selfish, then we will be totally sunk into the ground. We want to be grounded, but not sunk into the ground, into the earth. So, little bit selfish will move you forward. When we are selfish, we move. Oh, I have to go to the kitchen to make some food because I am hungry. I have to cover myself with some clothes. I have to buy something from the shop to cover myself because I am cold. So with that selfish motivation, selfish attitude, we always move. Selfishness is what motivates us in the short run. So we have to move. Selfishness is what motivates us and moves us. So therefore, we need a slight amount of selfishness in the state that we are living today. But as we progress in our practice, then less and less selfishness. That will, so selflessness should be the ultimate goal. But we need every day, we need a small dosage of selfishness as well to move us, to motivate us, to bring us forward. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Yep.
We have one more question, but I'm wondering if it's already after 8:30, so it's time. Would you like to say it?
Yeah, just can you pause the question? Just
Yes. That question is from Charlie.
Mhm.
What would you recommend a lay person to balance between worldly activities and Dharma practice? Thank you, Rinpoche.
Okay. What would you recommend for a lay person to balance between worldly activities and Dharma practice?
Yes.
So if you are, let's say, if you are a spiritual person, if you are a practicing Dharma practitioner, then of course you might have some certain agreement, certain commitments. Can you please unmute yourself then? Thank you. So if you are a Dharma practitioner, then you would have certain commitments from your teachers. So you should focus on that. You should not miss out on those things. And beside that, you can engage in all the worldly activities that you are required to do. If you are a business person or anything, you can do all of those things. But the main thing to keep in mind is, of course, two things. One, the attitude. One is the attitude, and the other is the view. So one must have the view of emptiness, and one must have the attitude of bodhicitta. These two are integral part of any Dharma practices. So keep in mind to engage your heart in bodhicitta and engage your mind in emptiness, wisdom of emptiness. And by doing so, that's how you can balance your life, worldly life with the Dharma life as a lay person. Oh yeah. Okay. Now let's do the dedication, please.
Giờ đến phần hồi hướng.
Yewan ye nyoto da lama sangye drogyo Java Jia Malu Ba Kye Sala Janjo Semjo Rembo Che Aye Banama Ge Gyuro Gyabo Nyamba